Part 33. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 321. We have known each other for more than 4 years, played ambiguously for 2 or 3 years, and have been in love for half a year. Now we are alone and in the same room. If Su Ming really leaves, he will be worse than an animal. Nangong had just finished taking a shower and was wearing a big bath towel. Most of her round shoulders were exposed. Her hair was still wet, and she looked fresh and tender. She was usually more unrestrained than Su Ming. It was obvious that Su Ming was not in a good mood. She suddenly became a little nervous. She subconsciously hugged her chest with her hands tighter. She said with a little unnatural expression, "Don't make trouble, go back to sleep." It would be better if she didn't hide. When she shrank back like this, she naturally exuded a feminine and gentle temperament, which was in sharp contrast to her usual arrogant queen style. The strong hair difference immediately made people want to commit a crime. Su Ming approached step by step, smiling more and more evilly, with a man's unique fire flashing in his eyes. As a woman, Nangong suddenly realized that Su Ming was not joking today. A blush climbed up her face from her fair and slender neck, and the hand holding the bath towel could not help shaking. In matters between men and women, although Nangong was usually bold, she was conservative in her bones. Her attitude towards premarital behavior has always been no support, no opposition, but no participation. She still valued her first time very much. Even after she and Su Ming officially fell in love, they often held hands and kissed each other, but that was all. Otherwise, with her and Su Ming's income, not to mention renting a room, they would have money to buy a house, and there would not be any substantial relationship until today. But now it is the 21st century after all. People of their age, no matter how conservative, can't be like men and women in the old society. To put it bluntly, it's nothing more than that. Su Ming is young and strong, and Nangong is also a normal young woman, who also has this need. Several completely different ideas conflicted in Nangong's mind. Reason and physical instincts were like two little demons fighting in her body. She was nervous and had a little expectation that she couldn't explain. Su Ming blocked her to the corner step by step. The two were almost face to face. It was a pity that they could clearly hear each other's heavy breathing. The moist breath sprayed on their faces. The temperature in the room seemed to rise suddenly, and it seemed that even the air was filled with a pink ambiguous smell. "Don't be afraid." Su Ming's hand unconsciously wrapped around her waist, and the murmur sounded in her ears. "Don't." When Su Ming touched her, Nangong felt like she was electrocuted, and instinctively reached out to push Su Ming. This time, the move was soft and weak. Before she touched Su Ming, her soft hand was grasped by Su Ming and pressed on his chest. Su Ming held Nangong's hand and slowly slid down from his chest. Nangong lowered her head, and a masculine breath came. Nangong felt that as Su Ming held her hand and slowly moved it downward, her body began to soften. Through the thin summer clothes, her palm felt the elastic muscles of Su Ming's chest, and then slid down to the warm abdomen. She was startled, and her hand continued to slide down under the guidance of Su Ming's big hand. The whole face instantly became like a roasted shrimp, red and hot, and she subconsciously wanted to pull her hand back, but unexpectedly Su Ming's hand suddenly increased the strength, blew a breath at the root of her ear, and laughed in a low voice, "I'll give you a good thing to touch." Nangong was startled, and before she could react, her hand was pulled down and finally touched the hot forbidden area. She opened her mouth and was about to exclaim, but a strong masculine breath came to her face, and the same warm breath came from her lips, which had been tightly blocked. Two warm breaths from men on her hands and lips, one of the most primitive wildness of a male, and the other like the most gentle lover, invaded at the same time. Nangong could no longer stand. The big bath towel slowly slid to the ground, revealing her curvy figure, and her long legs were unstable. The next second, she was lifted up by Su Ming. Nangong felt like he was floating in the clouds, and he was already deeply immersed in the bed in the suite. A hand reached out to the main control panel. The lights were dim, and only a thick nasal sound echoed in the room. Pain. Outside the window, the sea breeze from the South China Sea blew over Lantau Island, brushing a wind chime and gently jumping. The next day, the sun shone through the French window, and Su Ming slowly opened his eyes. The room still had traces of last night's madness. The clothes of the two were thrown everywhere, the tablecloth on the table was in a mess, and even the large French curtains were torn off halfway and hung diagonally on the terrace. A pair of slippers, one in the corner, the other seemed to have run to the terrace outside. Only Nangong was missing. He lifted the thin quilt, and there was a dull red plum blossom on the white bed sheet. Su Ming felt tired all over, and got up and walked barefoot to the bathroom. The bathroom was also a mess. The soap, toothbrush, cup, and other things on the washstand were knocked over, and several bath towels were hanging messily on the side. Why is it like this? Why is it that it's the first time, but I feel like I'm being raped? The Su Ming in the mirror looked like he had just been tortured by the reactionaries. There were several purple marks on his neck, and several crisscross scratches on his bare chest, as if he had just fought a battle with Wolverine. His back was also itchy, and he turned around and saw the crisscross claw marks. If it weren't for the irregular arrangement, it could be used to play Go. You can't judge a person by appearance, and you can't measure the depth of the sea. People who usually keep their composure often find out that the other party is unfathomable and has superb skills after fighting. The battle last night was very strange. At the beginning, Su Ming relied on his strong and thick skin to gain the upper hand. Nangong was so embarrassed that he kept biting his lips and humming, but after the initial pain, Nangong seemed to have completely adapted to the rhythm of the battle and tried to launch a counterattack. If it were just like this, at most it would be a chess match and a general meeting, and the more intense battle later would not happen. Who is Su Ming? A senior single dog, 4 years of college male dormitory life and 1 year of living alone in the waterside pavilion. Let him, like all single dogs, watch countless movies, and have long reached the point where there is no movie in his eyes and in his heart, and the old driver has thousands of moves in his mind. Moreover, Su Ming's physical fitness has been improved over the past year under the dual nourishment of mental strength and Tai Sui water. After 1,000 days of training, the soldiers are used in one moment. After 10 years of sharpening the sword, they finally went to the battlefield, charging forward and attacking wildly. If they met disobedience, they would be suppressed unreasonably. This kind of thing is mutual. If one side is dying, the other side will have no meaning. On the contrary, if one side is highly skilled in martial arts, it will naturally inspire the blazing fire of the other side. However, Su Ming was still inexperienced and forgot one thing. There is an essential difference between men and women. One is good at attacking and fighting, and will be exhausted after a while. The other is good at protracted war. The longer the battle, the stronger the combat effectiveness. By the second half of the night, the situation had changed. The Soviet army showed signs of fatigue, and the lack of support gradually failed to keep up. It was difficult to defend, let alone attack. Nangong's side was indeed getting stronger and stronger, and his spirit was getting stronger and stronger. Nangong tasted the marrow and came countless times in one night, and even the iron body could not cover it. The young man in the mirror had 2 deep bags under his eyes and a haggard face. Lesson. A bloody lesson. In the future, we must concentrate superior forces and completely suppress it in the first round. The longer it takes, the more disadvantageous it will be for our army. The sound of the door opening came from outside. Su Ming thought it was a waiter. He thought that it was a famous hotel after all. How could he come in to clean without knocking? He stretched his neck to see that Nangong came in with a plate with milk and a few pieces of bread on it, as well as 2 eggs that looked very humiliating. Sleeping like a dead pig, "Come out to eat." Nangong glared at Su Ming and walked into the room. Su Ming hurriedly followed him out. From the back, Nangong's two long legs were still a little tangled when he walked. It seemed that he killed 1,000 enemies but lost 800 of his own. "You worked so hard last night, why did you go down to get it yourself? Just ask the waiter to bring breakfast." Su Ming took 2 steps over, took the plate, and put it on the table. Nangong bit her lip and rolled her eyes coquettishly. "It's all your fault. You made the room so messy. It's so embarrassing to be seen. Eat quickly and tidy up the room after eating, so that the waiter won't see the joke when he comes to clean the room." "What a joke, I'm making out with my girlfriend, it's none of the waiter's business." Su Ming waved his hand, looked up at the pendulum clock on the wall, grinned and said, "Anyway, we have to clean it up soon, otherwise, let's make it even messy before the waiter comes." After that, he leaned over to hug Nangong. Nangong dodged very flexibly and hid at the other end of the bed. He waved his hands repeatedly as if he was a little frightened. "No, no. Last night, someone also said no." Su Ming jumped over and hugged Nangong in his arms and kissed her. He smiled and blew on her earlobe, and his hands began to be dishonest again. Nangong felt an itch in her ears, and half of her body was slightly numb. She immediately shrank into a ball and begged for mercy with a bitter face, saying, "Really, please let me go. I have to go out and play today, and I can't walk." Ha ha ha, Su Ming was in a good mood. It seemed that his efforts last night were not completely fruitless. Bringing breakfast to the terrace outside, facing the sea view of Lantau Island, Nangong took the hot milk from Su Ming and took 2 sips. Seeing Su Ming looking at her and laughing strangely, she was stunned for a moment, and then she understood and quickly wiped the white liquid on the corner of her mouth with a napkin. "Hey, let me ask you, are all boys like this?" Seeing that Nangong was curious again and a little shy, Su Ming couldn't help but want to tease her and asked, "How are they?" "Just." Nangong turned around and looked around. The terrace of the sea view room was very private. The different terraces were far away from each other, so there was no need to worry about being eavesdropped. Nangong said, "Can they all do the same postures you did last night?" "Do the girls understand?" Su Ming asked back. Nangong shook his head. "Are boys born with this ability?" "Of course not, the key is that I have watched many movies that teach you a lot." Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 322. After breakfast, Nangong decisively rejected Su Ming's invitation to fight again. Su Ming also rejected Nangong's suggestion to clean up the room without hesitation. The two dressed neatly, left the messy room to the waiter, and took the elevator down. Building, heading towards Disneyland. It was already very late when I came to the hotel last night and I didn't have time to take a closer look. On the way downstairs today, I saw the overall style of the Disney Hotel, which is like a big castle full of fairy tales and magic. There are handrails in the corridors, and little statues of Mickey Mouse and the magic mirror from Snow White can be seen everywhere. As Nangong walked, he pulled Su Ming to take pictures of her. It took almost 20 minutes to get down to the lobby on the first floor. "I want to buy a gift." When they arrived at the lobby, Nangong couldn't walk anymore and rushed straight into the Crown gift shop next to the lobby. There are rows of doll souvenirs on the shelves inside. Nangong held up 2 Mickey Mouse, a female mouse in a floral skirt and a male mouse in a black trousers and dress, and shook them towards Su Ming. "This is you, this is me." "How do you know they are a couple?" Su Ming came over to break the atmosphere, looked at a row of shelves with his hands behind his back, took out a Donald Duck, and said seriously, "Maybe they are a couple." "I said these 2 mice are a pair, and they are a pair." Nangong had long been used to Su Ming's unreliability and lack of coordination. He stuffed the 2 dolls into Su Ming's arms and gave them a big slap. Snapped his fingers, "Buy it and give it to me." "Hey," Su Ming stretched out an arm in a very shameless manner, supported Nangong, and asked flatteringly, My dear, what else are you interested in? Well, I want that one too, Nangong pointed to a row of couple costumes. Su Ming couldn't understand it at all. Why was it that the fur was all Mickey Mouse, and even the couple's costumes were printed with mice? Do I look like a male mouse? Nangong once again exposed a woman's nature when buying clothes. Before Su Ming could get it, she began to hesitate. Well, do you want the black one? Or the white one? The black one looks slimming, but it's too hot. The white one. Buy them all. But I also want the yellow one. Su Ming stepped over directly, raised his arms, and took all the rows of commemorative shirts into his arms. He grinned at the waiter next to him and said, "Please, I want them all." The waitress obviously wanted to laugh, but she held it back and nodded, "Sir, please pay here." The two foreigners turned around and stared at him dumbfounded. "What are you looking at?" "I've never seen a nouveau riche. My family runs a coal mine." Su Ming held his head high. "It's so embarrassing." Nangong covered his face with one hand, pulled Su Ming with the other and ran away, leaving behind his clothes and dolls. Let me go, I haven't gotten over the rich addiction yet." Su Ming struggled, turned around and shouted to the stunned waiter, "Wrap them all up and send them to room 4081. Before he could reach the gate, Nangong stopped. A little blonde girl dressed like a little princess appeared out of nowhere, spinning in circles in a classic dress. Nangong's eyes widened again, and he pulled Su Ming and ran directly to the princess's house next door. The princess room is full of little princesses. Parents can dress up their children like princesses in fairy tales here. The little blonde girl just ran out of the princess room. There are also several little girls under 10 years old inside, including a little mixed-race brown-haired girl was indescribably cute, holding a small wand in her hand and looking at herself in the mirror bit by bit. The princess house only provides services for children. Nangong was greedy and tugged on Su Ming's sleeve and said, "You have a lot of clever ideas. Can you think of a way to let me in? There are ways to help my little public lift, but this place is really not suitable for you. You are all children." "Okay, do you think I'm old? I knew I couldn't let you succeed." Nangong pouted. "Of course not. With your bust, if you wear such children's clothes, it will explode. If you want to act, you are also pretending to be a queen. Then give me a hug." "Oh. I want the princess to hold me." When you go out with a woman, you never know when you will arrive at your destination. On the short walk from the room to the hotel door, Nangong walked here and there for more than 40 minutes, looking here and there. Fortunately, the hotel is very close to Disney. It didn't take long to arrive at the park gate. After buying the ticket, I checked that there were no contraband in my bag and entered the park smoothly. At the gate, there were 2 Mickey Mouse, 1 Donald Duck, and 2 big dogs whose names Su Ming had forgotten. They stood in a row, twisting and turning. Nangong yelled and rushed over to take pictures, and he just touched several big dolls. Su Ming estimated that this girl might have a problem with cross-dressing, and he didn't know if her bestiality would be unleashed if he wore an Ultraman outfit in the room. Coincidentally, the theme song of Hong Kong Disneyland, "Let the Wonder Fly," is also sung by Jackie. As a man, Su Ming wasn't really interested in the puppets dressed up by these people, so he just watched the excitement and felt the joy in the garden. A lot of information about Xiangjiang Disney that I found online came to mind. The 5th Disneyland in the world, the 2nd in Asia, and the 1st Disneyland in China. The park is divided into 7 theme parks, namely, Main Street, USA, Adventure World, Fantasy World, Tomorrowland, Toy Story Land, Grizzly Gulch and Mysterious Manor, of which Grizzly Valley and Mysterious Manor are unique to the world. With more than 4,000 employees, the Vice President of the state and the Chief Executive of the administrative region attended the opening ceremony, an annual turnover of 5 billion Hong Kong dollars, and a significant boost to the development of Hong Kong's tourism industry, In short, this is a very amazing industry. With Su Ming's current strength, it is completely an unattainable dream. Just in time for the float parade, various Disney cartoon characters played by real people walked past vividly, and many tourists followed behind to take pictures. Several chipmunks in Alvin and the Chipmunks stood on the floats and twisted their butts wildly at the tourists. Nangong finally got her wish to be a little princess. She took a photo with the evil queen in front of the Sleeping Beauty castle, which made the 7 dwarfs standing on the side speechless, holding up their hammers and swords to protest, like the culprit who destroyed the harmonious relationship between the mother and daughter. However, Su Ming still prefers Grizzly Valley. This is the most exciting project. Su Ming and Nangong play the role of gold diggers who disturb the peaceful life of grizzly bears in the forest of a remote town. A large group of tourists ride the day mine and slowly cross the town. When passing a hillside, several grizzly bears suddenly come out from the roadside, roar loudly, and pounce on the tourists. Even though they know it is fake, the tourists still scream in fear. When the grizzly bears are about to pounce, the day mine car suddenly accelerates and reverses on the rugged slope, quickly leaving the grizzly bears behind. At this moment, a grizzly bear triggers the explosive device, and a loud explosion is heard in the airs. The whole car sprays out of the mountain at high speed and crosses the air. Ah! Nangong pulls Su Ming's sleeve and screams non-stop. Next, when crossing the tropical rainforest, a mysterious old house is found. It is said that the owner is a lonely traveler and adventurer, and all kinds of rare treasures are hidden in the house. Tourists, in groups of 4, ride in a small car operated by a trackless driving system through the forest. There will be monkeys constantly coming out of the woods, harassing tourists and triggering mysterious forces. If there are big pythons and big crocodiles, it will be more real. Nangong couldn't help asking Su Ming. Su Ming also had this idea. Just now, all the animals along the way, such as Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, chipmunks, and lightning martins, including the grizzly bears and monkeys in the tour projects, are fake or played by people. If these animals are real, I don't know what kind of sensation it will cause. Will it be possible to combine Disney and the safari park? Of course it is possible, Su Ming nodded heavily. The animals in the zoo are ready-made. Most of them are doing nothing in the cage all day. If they are interested, they will be the anchor in front of the camera. If they are not interested, they will lie there and sleep. Now that the zoo's food treatment is good, they are almost becoming little fat pigs. It is necessary to let them move around and lose weight. Then let's do it. Build an animal Disney in Yangchuan City, Nangong said, then realized that the wording was inappropriate and her face turned slightly red. Fortunately, the tourists around were all focused on the monsters that might appear at any time in the surrounding primeval forest, and not many people paid attention to her words. Brother really wants to do it, but unfortunately I am powerless at the moment. Hong Kong Disneyland has invested more than 20 billion. Su Ming counted on his fingers. When can he get more than 20 billion? It's not enough to win the lottery. According to Nangong's way of playing, one day was just enough to play in Disneyland. In the evening, he went to Temple Street to buy fake brand name bags and t-shirts. He ate so much seafood that he almost vomited. When Su Ming was buying ginger milk, he finally saw the legendary Slashing. 2 vendors selling cowboys with dragon and tiger tattoos on their arms were fighting for a good position and pulled out machetes from under the cart. Before the fight started, a tow assault vehicle stopped on the road. Several uniformed police officers came down and looked over. The 2 vendors immediately reconciled. Hong Kong's black gangs are so cowardly, Nangong said with contempt while licking the double skin milk. That's because there are 80 million party members like me. After eating and drinking, Nangong returned to the hotel at night. After taking a shower, she found Su Ming still sitting in her room. Her face flushed slightly, but she didn't say anything like "Why don't you go back to your room to sleep?" After a half-hearted push and pull, the lights-out battle was not mentioned. The next day, he went to the ocean park for a day. A group of red pandas, giant salamanders, Yangtze alligators, and 2 giant pandas made Su-Ming salivate. The giant salamanders and Yangtze alligators in Yangchuan City are still single. As for the 2 giant pandas, don't even think about it, they were given to the special administrative region by the central government. When will I get someone to give me a panda? Su-Ming sighed. Ah, Nangong screamed on the bungee jumping machine. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 323. The richer you are, the less money you have to spend. Su-Ming made 40 million for nothing. He thought that he would not have to think about money for the next year or so. But when he lay down and thought quietly, he realized that there were many places to spend money. The zoo was better. He did not need to invest money for the time being. The money earned from several projects was enough for the zoo's expenses and expansion. Moreover, Su-Ming was the manager of the zoo, not the owner. There was no reason for Su-Ming to pay for it personally. What needed to be spent were several other private projects, each of which was like a hungry child. The reservoir had a large enough area, but when the reservoir was taken over last year, due to financial constraints, the density of breeding was far from saturation. If you are willing to spend money, buy fish fry, hire workers, buy small fishing boats, fish boxes, etc., and it would not be a problem to expand the breeding scale several times. At present, the fish from the reservoir and Shuahun Lake are selling well in the market. Several bosses from other places can eat as much as they can. As long as they are willing to invest money, they can make a lot of money by the next year. The same is true for the winery. In a short period of time, Dashan wine has become a well-known local brand in Yangchuan City. It is a bit exaggerated to say that it is in short supply. Many wineries from other places have also begun to contact the winery, hoping to place orders. At present, the scale of the winery, whether it is manpower, factory machinery, and facilities, can only support an annual scale of 100 tons at most. If you want to produce more, you have to increase investment and expansion. This is another large sum of money. Although Wang Hao's entertainment company is a small project, it also has room for expansion. For example, cruise ships. At present, the area of the reservoir is so large that there are fish under the water, and the surface and surrounding areas are still empty. Buy a few boats, fish, and patrol in the rainy season, and take tourists to tour the lake at other times. There is great potential for development. According to Su-Ming's experience of living in Yangchuan City for many years, citizens still prefer to go to places like reservoirs for outdoor travel on weekends and holidays. Unfortunately, there have been no fun projects in the reservoir. In the past, Jojin was there, and even fishing had to be done secretly. If you manage it carefully, you may not be able to find a way out. Oh, by the way, you also need to buy a small plane. Making money is a road of no return. When Su-Ming was a poor student, he thought that people would be content with what they have. Later, when he embarked on this road, he found that he either spent other people's money to buy his own happiness, or fooled himself when he had no money. The process of making money itself is a kind of fun. In a big way, it is an ideal and a career. To be realistic, without so much money behind, he is not taking Nangong to gamble on horses, but pretending to be a grandson with the boss during the day and pretending to be a grandson with his future mother-in-law after get off work at night. Without money, the zoo can't be run, and his mental strength can't be improved so quickly. Without money, my mother is still eating at home with a monthly pension of less than 1,000 yuan, and the people in Sun Town are still crying out for the destruction of a few acres of food by wild boars. A grown man who eats and sleeps all day and eats when he wakes up, and doesn't do anything that is beneficial to the people and society, Is he still a party member? I knew you would start to play dumb after you succeeded. You said a lot, but you seem to have forgotten something very important. Nangong lay on Su Ming's chest and slapped him hard. A crisp slap echoed in the room. How could I forget? Su Ming grimaced in pain, leaving a bloody handprint on his chest. He said seriously, proposing and getting married is something that only happens once in a lifetime. How can you be so careless? Hearing Su Ming's words, it showed that he still had an idea in his mind. Nangong's expression softened immediately, and he lay on his chest and murmured, as long as you have the intention, the form is not important. That's from your point of view. From my point of view, I obviously have the ability to give you a grand ceremony, but I perfunctorily did it. No matter how nice the words are, it's all heartless. Besides, I'm actually very vulgar in my bones, and I like extravagance. I was poor before, so I had no choice. Now I finally have the opportunity to make money. I have to make good use of the opportunity, show off everywhere, and take revenge on society by the way. Just as Nangong understood Su Ming actually understood Nangong very well. She grew up in a wealthy family and was raised very delicately. Although she never asked for anything, she still hoped that her proposal and wedding would be like a fairy tale, leaving unforgettable memories. If Su Ming really took the words "as long as the heart is there, the form is not important" seriously, and just bought a rhinestone ring and went to propose, and then had 2 bowls of ramen at the Wanglao-san restaurant next door to get the matter done, the consequences would be so serious that it would definitely be destructive. That's how the little princess became a bad queen and an old witch. He didn't want to tremble at the sight of apples for the rest of his life. I can't argue with you, but don't think I don't know what you're thinking about. Forget it, it's like this anyway. What else can I do? Whatever you want. Nangong and Su Ming have known each other for so long, and he still knows this guy's nature very well. He twisted his body, hummed twice, and changed to a more comfortable position to lie down. Nangong could roughly guess what Su Ming was thinking. Su Ming also knew that she could guess it in her heart and would not misunderstand him. In ancient times, literary and artistic youths called this being in tune with each other, while modern literary and artistic youths generally call it finding someone who understands me. This feeling is very good. When 2 people are together, there are times when they fight and quarrel, but most of the time, they can find peace from each other. It seems that there is not much romance, but it makes people feel very down to earth, or in other words, some romance is something that only the 2 of them understand. It's what you said this afternoon that made me feel itchy. To run a Disney, a living Disney. Su Ming muttered to himself. Nangong was already sleepy, and he replied dazedly, "Then you do it?" Su Ming looked at the ceiling. "I definitely don't have the ability now. Do you think it's possible for me to achieve it before I'm 30? Then I'm afraid I'll be the youngest rich man in the country, not the kind of rich man who relies on his father." "Well, take me home to see your father." "Oh, wake up." Nangong's voice became smaller and smaller, and he didn't say anything. Su Ming lowered his head slightly, and saw that the girl had fallen asleep on him, and her little nose twitched between breaths. Su Ming smiled slightly, reached out to turn off the bedside lamp in the room, pulled the blanket upwards, gently draped it over Nangong's exposed shoulders, then hugged her and fell asleep. That night, Nangong had a dream. She dreamed that she was wearing a princess dress and in a gorgeous castle. The castle faced the sea and backed by green mountains. The bells rang, and the bright sunshine sprinkled the entire forest. Various animals in gorgeous dresses surrounded a young man riding a horse with a sword in front of her. The young man turned over and dismounted, kneeling on one knee in front of her. At this moment, even in a dream, she could clearly recognize the owner of this face. It was Su Ming. Su Ming had several good dreams in a row. What about winning the lottery, winning 4 consecutive prizes in horse racing, The party finally decided to kick Trump out and instead nominated me to participate in this year's election. In the most enjoyable dream, all animals became alive, running and jumping like humans, speaking and singing. All males called themselves King King, and all females called themselves King King. Of course, the pronunciation was different. He was sitting on the king's throne, dragging his chin and thinking about a very serious question. Should I let the wild leopard girl sleep with me tonight, or let the charming cat come? The little tiger is actually a good choice, or the rabbit. But no matter who I choose, someone will always be left out. I have it, why not just come together, but my body can't stand it. Oh, it's so hard to be a man. At this time, the door of the cave was suddenly kicked open by someone, and Nangong rushed in dressed like a full-level female warrior, with legendary equipment shining all over her body, holding a very strange super-large scissors in her hand. I have never seen a female warrior using scissors as a weapon, and the scene is particularly incongruous. Su Ming was about to ask why the scissors were so big, and then he felt a chill between his legs, and then he woke up. Oh my God! It's a dream. It turned out to be a dream. Su Ming looked at the blue sky outside the window, sweating coldly. But something is wrong, I am awake, why is there still a little chill between my legs? Looking down, Nangong woke up at some point, and the blanket on the bed was wrapped around her. The girl sat on the other side of the bed with her legs curled up, looking at him with a smile. The door to the terrace was open. He was only wearing a pair of hollow shorts. When the sea breeze blew outside, the draft passed through the two big trouser legs. It was really chilly. You woke up. I've been watching you for a long time. Seeing Su Ming wake up, Nangong came up to him like a kitten with a blanket in his arms. His voice was sweet and his eyes were charming. Couples who have had intimate relationships can understand what this means at a glance. Wait a minute, Su Ming subconsciously dodged backwards, tightened his legs, and asked nervously, "You didn't bring scissors?" "Ah? What scissors? Where are the scissors? What do you need scissors for?" Nangong was stunned. The ellipsis above means that after Nangong was stunned, a fierce fight that was not suitable for children occurred. They were all young people with hot tempers. After being together for a long time, they might have a spark and a big fight at any time. At noon, I was too lazy to go out. I lay on the big bed and ordered lunch from the front desk. Su Ming called Sister Tong again. The zoo staff's itinerary for the past 2 days was going smoothly. A group of people were worshipping Buddha at the Polin Monastery on Lantau Island. Sister Tong said on the other end of the phone in a very obviously arrogant tone, "What Polin Monastery? I think it is not as effective as the Fox Ferry in our zoo." She also reassured Su Ming that they were having a lot of fun and there was no need to worry. It was him and Nangong, the young couple, who rarely came out once, so they had fun. Is Su Ming okay? Among the group of people, Su Ming was most worried about Su Ming. Without him by his side, Su Ming was very worried that he would suddenly go berserk and turn into Tarzan. It would not be fun to cause some trouble. The traffic police in Hong Kong all carry guns. What if he was shot dead on the street? Saker Falcon is currently having a lot of fun near Lantau Island. There should be no dangerous emergencies here, so let it follow Su Ming. Hey, Principal, let me tell you, your cousin and Xiao Hu's relationship is likely to work out. When it comes to matters between men and women, Sister Tong becomes enthusiastic as if she had been given an injection of chicken blood. She finds a quiet place and reports for a long time. The general situation is that Su Ming ignores everyone and only listens to Nurse Xiao Hu. As long as Nurse Xiao Hu glares at him, Su Ming will be obedient. How can this be? Another henpecked husband, Su Ming was furious. Why do you say again? Nangong asked with a smile. Wang Hao's father is a henpecked husband, Su Ming reacted very quickly. He said it seriously and deliberately tilted his neck and snorted twice. I despise men like this the most. Oh? Is that so? Nangong squinted and came closer. Again, Su Ming turned over and suppressed him. Su Ming had been so happy these 2 days that he almost forgot about the charity dinner. Nangong still kept it in mind. After suppressing him, the two left the hotel and went to choose clothes for the charity dinner in the evening. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 324. The organizer of this charity dinner is the oldest and most influential charity in Hong Kong, Tunhua Group of Hospitals. Including Su Ming, many people often call it Tunhua Group of Hospitals. The Tunhua Group of Hospitals originated in the 1870s and has been committed to providing diversified services to the general public, including medical services, educational services, and community services. The so-called three hospitals originally referred to the Tunhua Hospital, the Tunhua Hospital, and the Tunhua Eastern Branch. From the earliest small Chinese medicine clinic, there are now more than 200 clinics and medical units of all sizes throughout Hong Kong. In terms of social status and influence, the reputation of the Tunhua Group of Hospitals is even higher than that of the Jockey Club, because although it is also a charity, the Jockey Club is ultimately a gambling profit-making organization, while the Tunhua Group of Hospitals is a medical institution that saves lives and heals the wounded. The Jockey Club takes money from the pockets of the majority of Hong Kong citizens, while the Tunhua Group of Hospitals actually provides services, and even provides many free services. The two are incomparable. Both of them started out as barefoot doctors and old military doctors. Why is there such a big gap? Su Ming tilted his neck and muttered. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Don't move, your tie is crooked again, you can't even tie a tie properly at such a grown-up level. Su Ming was wearing a straight dark suit, while Nangong was wearing an elegant light blue evening gown with a brooch inlaid with sapphires on her chest, and she came to help him adjust his tie. Of course, you can't just wear jeans and a pullover to an occasion like a charity dinner, so after leaving the hotel, they ran to Queen's Road to shop. After having 40 million, Su Ming basically didn't care about buying clothes, such as small money. When he bought them, he didn't even look at the price. One set of Armani and one set of Gucci, plus a few simple but not simple small accessories from Nangong. When he checked out later, he found that it was close to 7 figures. Then, in the shop assistant's eyes, the two of them, wearing clothes worth millions, walked hand in hand to the street, took a broken taxi and drove away. The taxi driver kept looking at the couple in the rearview mirror all the way, which made Su Ming a little impatient. He asked with his eyes wide open, "What are you looking at? Have you never seen mainland tourists?" The driver had a good temper. He smiled and said in non-standard Mandarin, "Wearing such expensive brand names and taking my broken taxi, be careful of being discovered." Be discovered, what? Su Ming was stunned, and then he understood what the other party meant. He thought that he and Nangong were wearing knockoffs. Come to think of it, how could people who have the money to buy brand names worth millions go out and take a taxi? Whether it is the mainland or Hong Kong, or even the Western world abroad, all taxi drivers seem to love to talk nonsense. Su Ming shrugged and said helplessly, "No way, my helicopter hasn't arrived yet, otherwise I would have taken a plane." "Take a plane, pick it up, it's better to take a Gundam." The taxi driver twitched his mouth twice, wondering when mainland tourists became boastful. The taxi drove through the traffic all the way. Most of the streets in Hong Kong are very narrow, especially in the downtown area. There are very few parallel 4-lane roads. Most of them are single lanes, and even 2-lane and 3-lane roads are rare. When driving, every driver is required to strictly abide by traffic rules. One car follows another. The situation of overtaking in the gaps in China is rarely seen. Everyone goes their own way and stops in an orderly manner. Therefore, even if the road is very narrow, the taxi drove very fast all the way and soon arrived at the Hong Kong Peninsula Hotel where the dinner was held. The Peninsula Hotel opened in 1928. It is the oldest hotel in Hong Kong and one of the most luxurious and famous hotels in Hong Kong and even in the world. It has the title of the Lady of the Far East. In the golden age of Hong Kong's entertainment industry in the 1980s and 1990s, it was once a gathering place for famous movie stars and artists. Many well-known artists even reserved rooms here for a long time, so it was also called the Artist Tea House. From the outside, the Peninsula Hotel looks like a concave castle from a distance, with a towering main building in the middle and two auxiliary buildings extending from both sides, like two walls used to block the enemy. In fact, in the history of nearly 100 years, this hotel has indeed been used as a military headquarters and a fortress of war many times. The taxi driver turned the steering wheel skillfully, and the taxi turned a corner and drove along the roundabout towards the hotel gate. Sandwiched between a row of luxury cars heading to the hotel gate, this broken taxi looked particularly shabby. "Wow, good luck, I can see a big star again," the taxi driver suddenly pointed to a Lincoln number 1 with the last number 9 in front and said. "Which star?" Su Ming also stretched his neck to look forward curiously, but the rear window of the Lincoln 1 had a dark film, so he couldn't see who was sitting in the car at all. "The 10th brother of the Siang family is Long Wu from God of Gamblers, did you know?" The taxi driver was obviously a little excited. Su Ming and Nangong looked at each other, thinking that it was some big star, but it turned out to be Long Wu, who he had just seen 2 days ago, nothing special. So he responded absent-mindedly, "Oh, I thought it was God of Gamblers." The driver saw that they were a little disappointed, turned around and said excitedly, "Wow, what is God of Gamblers? You mainlanders don't know the situation." With a word from the 10th brother, God of Gamblers, Saint of Gamblers and Gambler will all become good babies. This is the real Hong Kong boss, a big star without a little golden man. As he said, he rolled up his sleeves and showed Su Ming the tattoo on his arm. "When I was in the underworld more than 10 years ago, he was my idol." "Wow, master, please pay attention while driving. Look at the road ahead. If you get rear-ended, be careful, and they will send their young men to chop you down. Isn't it Long Wu?" "I know." Shinji's original words are related to others. "We were talking to each other the night before yesterday. Let's bet on horses together," Su Ming said quickly. "Betting on horse racing with you?" The driver rolled his eyes, his face darkened, showing a ruthless expression of a former gangster, and said in a deep voice, "Young man, I don't care if you flatter me, but don't insult my idol. I actually bet on horses with him, and he even lost a horse to me." Su Ming yelled, "How could this be an insult? I, a member of the party, bet on horse racing with him, a former club boss, and I didn't feel insulted. How could it be an insult to him? These people in Xiangjiang don't have a sense of right and wrong?" Hearing what Su Ming said, the driver's expression became even more disdainful, and he even laughed in an exaggerated manner. "Lost by a horse? Wow, handsome boy, do you think horse betting means using horses as bets? Is it a horse that wins?" he said. "Understand, it turns out that this young mainland tourist doesn't understand anything at all, he just pretends to understand and is just bragging all the way. I can't tell you. How about I ask him to sign an autograph for you to offset the fare?" The driver didn't even bother to look back this time, and waved his hand in a perfunctory manner. Okay, I believe you, you have a helicopter, you bet on horses with Brother 10, and you played ball with, you still play games with aliens, okay." Su Ming wanted to say something else, but Nangong tugged at him and whispered, "You are so bored, why are you arguing with him?" "Yes, idleness is idleness, why are you talking nonsense?" Su Ming said with a smile. As he spoke, he arrived at the hotel entrance. Lincoln stopped in front of him, and the taxi also stopped. A waiter ran over, with a very enthusiastic but not humble expression on his face, opened the door of the Lincoln 1, and then stepped out with feet wearing shiny leather shoes. It's out, it's out. I'm finally going to see my idol. The taxi driver was so excited that he forgot to click his watch, and the numbers on it were still jumping up by a few cents. Nangong handed over a large denomination bill, and the driver simply waved his hand without looking back. I don't have time to change, so I won't charge you any more. Get off the car, don't delay me watching idols. In the front, Long Wei stepped out of the car in a dark suit, with a middle-aged woman dressed in jewelry on his arm. The driver was stunned. The clothes Long Wei was wearing today matched those of Su Ming. Wow, my idol is 10,000 times more beautiful in the same clothes than you. While the driver was talking, Su Ming and Nangong had already got out of the car, holding Nangong's arms and walking towards Long Wei, calling 10th brother from behind. Long Wei in front was about to walk into the hotel when he heard someone shouting. When he looked back, he was slightly startled for a moment, then showed a smile and took the initiative to stop and stand at the door of the hotel waiting for Su Ming. Wow! Do we really know each other? The driver was stunned, a little confused, and reluctant to leave for a moment, so that he didn't hear the car behind him honking its horn to urge him. The two parties stood at the door of the hotel and exchanged a few words. Su Ming took out a small piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to Long Wei. He muttered a few words, and Long Wei showed a strange expression right after. Wrote something on the piece of paper. Su Ming strode back to the taxi and knocked on the driver's side window. The taxi driver quickly rolled down the window, excitedly grabbed Su Ming's hand, and said in disbelief, "Wow, handsome boy, you are really friends with my idol. Just think of what I just said as farts. Don't take it personally. Everyone is joking. What's the point? Drive away quickly and don't block the traffic." Su Ming casually handed the small piece of paper to the driver. "Oh, I almost forgot. Your idol's signature will be used as the fare. I won't take advantage of you." After saying that, he hurriedly ran back to the hotel door. The driver took the piece of paper and looked at it. It turned out to be an Armani invoice. The long series of numbers on it made his eyelids twitch. At the bottom of the invoice, there was a line with some scrawled words, but it was still legible. When it came out, it was written, "Love the motherland, abide by the laws and regulations. Brother 10. Brother 10, I will definitely remember it." The taxi driver nodded heavily to the invoice, quickly pulled down his sleeves to cover the tattoo on his arm, and then carefully stuffed the Armani invoice into his wallet. Outside the hotel, Long Wei looked helplessly at Su Ming, who ran back. Although he has not been the eldest brother for many years, as a top community leader who once made a big difference, he feels a little embarrassed when he writes something like obeying the rules and abiding by the law. Brother 10, I think you really have the potential to become a party member. If you want to join the party, I will find someone to help you write an application when I get back." Su Ming ran back and said something nonchalant before formally asking the person next to Long Wei. The woman nodded and smiled. "Hello, Mrs. Yang. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 325. Mrs. Yang is naturally Long Wei's wife. Although she looks a little fat, Su Ming has seen photos of her when she was young on the internet. It can be said that she is not inferior to any female star under Long Wei Entertainment Company. As a powerful figure in the entertainment industry Long Wei's ability to stay with her until today is considered a good story in Hong Kong. This Mrs. Yang must also be quite skillful in controlling her husband. Along the way to the charity banquet venue, the formation of the four people changed. Su Ming and Long Wei, two men in matching attire, walked in front, and Mrs. Yang walked behind with Nangong on her arm. Mrs. Yang was in the back and was teaching Nangong. "Experience, let me tell you, men are all about loyalty. When their brains get hot, they don't care about anything. Look at him. He is like this every time. He can't turn away his friends when they ask for help. He has so much money in the jockey club, How much money can he lose? It's nothing, why do you need him to come forward? Although her words had a strong flavor of bragging, they seemed very honest and not annoying. She was on the same side as Su Ming and the others, implying that Su Ming was also a friend. It's better to let Su Ming win more money from the jockey club. Nangong was also a good person, so he smiled and said, "10th brother is famous." Here, 10th brother's words are more effective than the chief executive's administrative order. Otherwise, the horse club would have to find 10th brother for me. Xiang Tai, what is being auctioned tonight? Ah. They are all useless things, and we don't have to pay for them. But after all, they are doing charity and accumulating virtue for future generations. The dinner was held at the Felix restaurant on the 28th floor of the Peninsula Hotel. The organizer had booked the entire restaurant. After Su Ming entered the venue, he found that there were already many guests coming to the dinner in the circular restaurant. Along the way, people kept coming and going. Longwu said hello. Different from the previous press conference held in Yangchuan City, on this occasion today, Su Ming was just a soy sauce person. He didn't know anyone. He simply said hello to Longwu's family and went straight to his seat. Sit down by the window. Looking down from the 360-degree ring-shaped viewing glass, Victoria Harbor at dusk is already filled with dots of lights, shining like a starry river. Sitting in a place like this, even the most ordinary person can easily develop ambition, or the motivation to strive. That's what it means to be a drunkard. I don't know how many people have struggled all their lives, thinking that they were finally standing at the top of the pyramid, but in the end they found that they were still just a powerless ordinary human being. Su Ming suddenly said something. Wow, Mr. Su, it's such a pity that you are studying philosophy when you have such a beautiful girl by your side. A foreigner suddenly appeared on the opposite side, wearing a girly, tight-fitting and cut-out suit, with the shirt turned up. Orchid finger. Seeing him like this, Nangong thought he had encountered a pervert, and subconsciously shrank towards Su Ming. But on second thought, he felt it was not polite, so he squeezed out a smile and asked, "Who is this?" "Young Master Su, don't you remember me?" "Wow, you must have forgotten me too well. It makes people like you so sad." The foreigner cast a wink at Su Ming resentfully. "Robin, are you hosting today's auction?" Su Ming looked at it for several seconds before he recognized this guy. He was the same auctioneer who hosted the auction at Sotheby's last time. Later I found out that he was not a good person. Absolutely gay. "Of course it's me." Then said that Mr. Su has a bright future. "We haven't seen him for half a year and he has become a lot more handsome," Robin said with a silly smile. Nangong felt so sick that he almost had goosebumps. Su Ming laughed and said, "Don't worry, this guy is not interested in women. Robin, come and help me see which of the items being auctioned tonight are particularly unique collectible." Before entering the venue, the waiter had already distributed a brochure introducing tonight's auction items to each guest. Su Ming flipped through it casually. Not many were interested. He was not an expert in this field. Robin happened to show up. "You might as well ask him, maybe you can find something missing." "Wow, Su Sheng, is this a violation of my professional ethics?" Robin blinked, shocking Su Ming, and then deliberately pretended to be reluctant and said, "But who made you so handsome? I can't refuse your request." "According to what you say, I'm betraying my appearance." Su Ming also smiled. Before this kind of charity dinner, small groups of acquaintances chatted together in twos and threes, and no one noticed Su Ming and the others. Robin flipped through the brochure and pointed to a few gadgets to introduce. A governor's flag signed by the last governor of Hong Kong, Peng Dingkong, and an out-of-print Patek Philippe watch, all have good potential for appreciation. I can't say that you will make money if you buy them, but compared with other charity auction items that are almost free of charge, they are finally no loss. Are there animals? Su Ming was slightly startled, pointing to a page in the album, a rare pure white gold arowana, and several hexagonal arowanas. Pure platinum arowana is actually an albino. Its whole body is snow white without any other impurities. Only its eyes are red. It looks very elegant. It is a very high-end pet fish. When the price is very high, it can be sold for $200,000 to $300,000 apiece. However, the starting price of this fish is only $150,000, so there is obviously no point in buying it. The hexagonal arowana is not a fish, but a kind of salamander that lives in the water. It looks like a miniature version of the giant salamander, but it is much cuter than the giant salamander. It has a pink body, a big flat mouth, and 2 cute eyes. It has small black eyes and 6 coral-like tentacles around its big head. It looks like a water elf in a fairy tale. Some kind-hearted and noble children donated their pets. Robin shrugged and added in a low voice, "Actually, I just don't want to keep them. These little fish with long horns are so cute, let's buy them and keep them." Nangong had no resistance at all to such small animals that only appeared in fairy tales. Hexagonal arowanas are not expensive. The starting price for all 9 of them is $10,000. However, for $10,000, you can buy a car full of hexagonal arowanas at the pet market. Su Ming flipped through a few more pages and found a horse. When he saw the introduction, he couldn't help but laugh. It was actually the Chevaling. "Young Master Su, please don't buy it. This horse is rubbish." Seeing that Su Ming seemed to be very interested, Luo Ben quickly advised, "It is at the bottom every year. Its role in horse racing is be a clown and make everyone laugh." "I like it." Su Ming raised his eyebrows. Nangong was very happy. He didn't have a horse yet. He bought one and went back to ride it. It also put some pressure on the second senior brother, lest it think that he was the only mount and become arrogant. The auction started soon. Since it was a charity event, Robin's hosting style was completely different from that at the Sotheby's wine sale. He mainly made jokes and made the audience burst into laughter. The competition in the auction is not fierce. Generally, after raising the price 2 or 3 times symbolically, if one party shows that they are really interested, the others will take the initiative to withdraw. Su Ming believed that as long as Nangong was happy, the money would be well spent. After 2 bids, he bought the small box of hexagonal arowana for $20,000. When Robin announced that the auction item was the Chevaling, the whole audience burst into laughter, and no one raised a sign for a long time. It's not that he is reluctant to give up money. This Chevaosaurus is a living creature and will definitely continue to compete in the future. Spending money to buy it back will be really embarrassing in the future. So Su Ming didn't even encounter any bidders and bought it directly at the starting price. $80,000, a thoroughbred racehorse. Su Sheng has earned it, Robin said in a funny tone when the hammer fell. Everyone present turned around and looked at Su Ming with an amateurish expression. Some even smiled kindly and shook their heads sympathetically. If you just look at the pedigree, buying a purebred racehorse for $80,000 is certainly a profit. However, these Chevaosaurs have almost no competition value. If you buy them back, they will be a burden. After they go on the field, they can only play clowns and be last. The previous owner just couldn't stand the jokes from all sides, so he took it out and auctioned it off for charity. Many people even think that this new face is gaining fame in this way, so that he can integrate into the upper class circles as soon as possible. In any case, when Robin called out the buyer's name, the celebrities present immediately remembered Su Ming. Don't care about their opinions. Chevaling has potential, but it just lacks a good master. If it is well trained and achieves good results once or twice in competitions, its worth will increase 10-fold or 100-fold, and then they will regret it. Long Wu persuaded with a smile, but it could be seen that he was just standing as a friend to encourage Su Ming, and was not really optimistic about Chevaling's potential. The former owner of Chevaling sent the certificate to Su Ming and said, I heard from Brother 10 that Mr. Su won tens of millions at the Jockey Club a few days ago and is a real expert. I hope that SpecialAbilities can be with you in the future. It shines brightly in my hands. This man's surname is Luo Jiaju, the son of Luo Dingbang, the king of Zhangjiang's textile industry and founder of the SpecialAbilities brand, so the previous horse was also named SpecialAbilities. Wow, it turns out that the horse god who robbed the Jockey Club in Happy Valley is Mr. Su. Mr. Su, you have given a sigh of relief to all of us. I suggest you applaud Mr. Su. Robin was on the stage. He made a very excited expression and was the first to applaud. The wealthy people at the dinner watched Su Ming's expression change slightly, and the sympathetic smile on his face disappeared and turned into curiosity. Most of the rich people present are horse racing enthusiasts. For them, tens of millions can be spent, but winning tens of millions is another concept. Under normal circumstances, they give money to the Jockey Club, and the Jockey Club can make a lot of money from them every year. When Robin said this, everyone smiled knowingly and applauded as if they were just having fun. Stand up. After a small hiatus, several more knickknacks were auctioned off. Su Ming's table was relatively close to Long Wu's table. They were watching the auction while chatting. Just when the auction was about to end, Luo Jiaju, the former owner of SpecialAbilities, who was sitting not far away, suddenly strode up to Long Wu very rudely. People at the tables closer could see that Luo Jiaju's face was extremely ugly. The air conditioning in the restaurant was turned on, but there were big beads of sweat on his forehead. Mr. Luo, what's the matter? Long Wu asked with a frown. Brother 10, I just received a call from home. My daughter has been kidnapped. I have asked my family to call the police. The police have no clues for the time being. I would like to ask Brother 10 to help find out the news, Luo Jiaju said solemnly. He spoke not loudly, but due to the close distance, Su Ming heard everything clearly. It's a big event. Su Ming burst into tears. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 326. Those who watch the excitement are not afraid of big trouble. Su Ming came to Xiangjiang this time. Of course he was happy to win money by betting on horse racing and having a high time at attractions such as Disney Ocean Park, but as a person who grew up watching Xiangjiang movies, his biggest wish in his heart was actually to experience it himself. The plot of the movie. For example, a gang fight on the street, a gold shop robbery, this kidnapping, although it sounds a little lower grade, it is still a common story plot, and it sounds quite exciting. Long Wu is the former boss of the society. Before the handover, Xinji was the largest society in Hong Kong, with nearly 100,000 members, and its tentacles spread all over the underground world of Hong Kong. Whether they are foreign or local criminals, they want to be in Hong Kong. Whatever Xiangjiang does, it is difficult to escape Xinji's eyes. Even though he has been cleared long ago, he still has a huge influence. It is indeed more convenient than the police to find out information. The only thing that was a bit unpleasant was that as a former boss, Long Wu's first words were, "Have you called the police?" This made Su Ming despise him fiercely in his heart. There are too many rich people in Hong Kong, so kidnapping cases emerge one after another. More than half of the top 10 richest people, including Li Keoran, have been kidnapped. However, rich people at different levels have different methods of dealing with kidnapping cases. The truly top-level rich generally choose not to call the police beforehand and try their best to cooperate with the kidnappers. The safety of the hostages comes first. For wealthy people at this level, they can afford a ransom of several hundred million, and the value of a qualified family member is also much higher than several hundred million. Moreover, they have huge energy themselves, and their efficiency in handling kidnapping incidents may not be lower than that of the police. Most ordinary wealthy people would choose to call the police immediately, such as the Luo Jiaju in front of them. After he called the police, he immediately came to Longwu, hoping to use a two-pronged approach to get some news from Longwu. Just as Mrs. Yang was about to say something, Longwu had already stood up, patted Luo Jiaju on the shoulder, and led Luo Jiaju out. "Mr. Luo, don't be anxious now, let's go out and talk." Su Ming was not willing to miss such a good thing, so he stood up and followed him. Longwu looked back at him inexplicably. Su Ming couldn't say that he was just following to watch the excitement, so he quickly said with a heavy face, "Brother Ten, maybe I can help." Luo Jiaju looked at Su Ming with some doubts. He obviously didn't believe that a tourist from mainland China, who knew how to bet on horses and had some money, could do anything about a kidnapping case that happened in Xiangjiang. But Longwu nodded and said in a deep voice, "Okay, let's go together." Su Ming looked back at Nangong, who shrugged, "When men do things, we women don't get involved. Mrs. Yang and I are going shopping." Su Ming originally wanted to ask Nangong to watch the fun together, but he didn't expect her to express her stance like this. Su Ming couldn't say, "It's okay, let's come together." Watching the fun alone is not enough, so he could only rush to his wife and nodded, "Please take care of her." Several people suddenly left the table, which immediately attracted the attention of other people in the restaurant, who were whispering to each other and asking if there was any accident. "Did you see? He's like this every time. When his friends come to him for trouble, he has to deal with big things." Mrs. Yang's tone was exactly the same as at the beginning. She was blaming her husband for being too loyal, but it was clear. A deep sense of pride. Nangong also learned this trick and said next to him, "It's the same with the one at my house, as a man. The man who was helping, the man who was watching the fun, and the man who really had the accident." The three of them hurried downstairs. Two of Longwu's bodyguards had already driven over and were waiting at the door. After getting in the car, Longwu took a moment. Asked about the situation. This afternoon, several kidnappers broke into Luo Jiaju's villa in Saigon and kidnapped Luo Jiaju's daughter. According to the reactions of people present, there were 6 kidnappers in total. Their faces were covered, and 2 of them spoke with local mainland accents. They had short guns. Before leaving, they left a verbal message demanding a ransom of 48 million Hong Kong dollars. The specific handover location was waiting for a call. After Longwu heard this, he immediately made a few calls. Although Su Ming didn't speak Cantonese, he could basically understand it. Longwu asked people to investigate whether there were any mainlanders buying guns and on the black market or renting houses in remote areas in the recent period. No one gave any hint of making a vote. As expected, he is worthy of being the big brother of the society. If this kidnapper has any contact with the local black market, he will definitely be able to follow the clues and find clues. If there is any news, you will call me as soon as possible. After putting down the phone, Longwu nodded slightly at Luo Jiaju, who was constantly wiping sweat. Then he turned his eyes and looked at Su Ming. He did not speak, but there was an inquiring look in his eyes. Obviously, Longwu means, "How can you help?" If it were another person, such as Zhao Yun, Su Ming would say something like, "I have watched Detective Conan and Young Bao Qingtian, and my brain is very good and can help analyze the case," but with Longwu, unaware of this, he thought for a moment, showed a mysterious smile, and said, "Brother Ten, I also have an informant in Xiangjiang." The spy he was talking about actually refers to Hai Dongqing. This guy flies around in the sky all day long. If he wants to, he can have a panoramic view of half of Hong Kong. However, it is hard to say how much this will help the kidnapping case. But when these words fell on Longwu's ears, he was shocked. Even Luo Jiaju suddenly turned his head and stared at Su Ming. They both thought of Su Ming's background. He was from the mainland, and more importantly, he was a party member. Seeing the two men looking at him in awe, Su Ming was really embarrassed and coughed, "Brother Ten, where are we going now? Is it the Shinji base camp? Oh, it should be called Tuo De. The prototype of Hong Sing in the Young and Dangerous movie is Xing. According to the Hong Kong movie, there is a smoky old conference room in Hong Sing's headquarters. Usually more than a dozen bosses from the hall hold meetings here. In the conference room there is a statue of Guangong, and both sides of the conference table are filled with bigwigs from all walks of life wearing gold chains and tattoos of dragons and phoenixes. If they are so bad-tempered, they might even start a fight and say pick, even the 10th brother's friends. If you dare to move, blow them out and kill those gangsters on the street. Then other big guys agreed, and all Shinji's 100,000 members went out to look for those kidnappers all over the world. Su Ming might be able to ask Longwu to borrow a team of people, pretend to be a gangster, and show off his power everywhere. Speaking of which, in the movie, the boss goes to the sauna and other healthcare on the territory, and it seems to be free of charge. Bar. Longwu had always shown a serious image. When he heard Su Ming ask this, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch twice, and he tilted his head slightly toward the car window. Where to go, you can see for yourself. It turned out that by the time he spoke, Su Ming had already arrived at his destination. Su Ming looked out through the car window and saw a majestic building in front of him. On the door of the building were several large characters, New Territories Police Station. A red flag dyed red with the blood of martyrs is fluttering in the wind. Su Ming was completely desperate. After getting off the car and entering the police station, they went directly to the legendary crime department. A female police officer who seemed to have a high official position received them. "I am Senior Inspector Ho Po Man of the New Territories Crime Unit, and I am now in charge of this case." This female police officer looks very much like Zhu Yin. She is wearing a Xiangjiang police summer suit, a skirt that just passes the bend of the legs, a slightly tight women's shirt, and a very playful policewoman hat. A movie suddenly appeared in Su Ming's mind. It's a very old Hong Kong movie. What's it called? Uniform Seduction / Temptation or something like that. Well, what am I thinking about again? Although He Baoan looks quite feminine, he acts vigorously and resolutely, and goes straight into the case without even a word of comfort. The police are very efficient. After receiving the report, they have called up surveillance cameras around the villa area. From the surveillance cameras, the robbers drove west after taking the hostages, and finally parked the car at the foot of an uninhabited barren mountain. The police found the car and found that it had been reported stolen more than 10 days ago. The clues have been cut off here. The police have sent people and police dogs to search around the area where the car was abandoned. I'm afraid there won't be any information in a short time. He Baoan turned to Longwu and asked, "Mr. Xiang, do you have any clues?" It seemed that she also knew Longwu's identity very well. "I'll investigate the car theft." Longwu then made another call. On the other end of the phone, a guy named De Fei quickly sent a message. There were 6 mainlanders in total who bought this car from him 3 days ago. De Fei thought they were from mainland China, so he kept a careful eye on them and sent someone to follow them. He saw them driving into Fei Mountain. Fei Mountain, the expressions of several people present suddenly became tense. The place where the car was abandoned was not far from Fei Mountain. He Baoan immediately called the headquarters. There were clues that the kidnappers were in Fei Mountain. He asked for manpower support to search Fei Mountain immediately. "Then we just wait here." Su Ming, who had been playing the role of a passerby, finally couldn't help but speak. "What fun is there to watch? There is no club meeting. If you can follow the flying tigers or something, it would be quite exciting to go into the mountains and hunt down the robbers. You can't just sit in the office and drink coffee, right?" He Baoan didn't seem to notice Su Ming's existence. He probably put him in the same category as Longwu's bodyguards. When he saw him speaking, he looked at him, raised his eyebrows, and asked doubtfully, "This the bit is?" "Friends from the mainland," Longwu coughed. "Oh," He Baoan responded calmly. Generally speaking, when a beautiful woman says something like, "Oh, haha, eat and take a bath," the conversation will not continue. As expected, He Baoan ignored Su Ming's proposal and said with a straight face, "The police have professionally trained personnel to deal with it. You can just wait here. I understand your feelings, but going to the scene will only add chaos." The first part of understanding the mood refers to Luo Jiaju, and the second part of adding confusion obviously refers to Su Ming. Time passed little by little, and news kept coming. The police had divided into several teams and entered Fei Mountain. Somewhere in Fei Mountain, a certain team found objects that were suspected to be on the kidnapped person. A certain team found there are several mountain huts with traces of human life inside, but they are already empty. All signs were clearly pointing to Fei Mountain, and it seemed that the kidnapper could be found. At this moment, Luo Jiaju's phone suddenly rang. He Baoan made a gesture, and professional police officers immediately began to trace the source of the call. Luo Jiaju's phone was set to a power amplifier, and a male voice with a mainland accent came from inside, saying gloomily, "Mr. Luo, how dare you call the police? It seems you don't want your daughter's life." Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 327. Everyone present frowned when they heard the robber's words. In general kidnapping cases, there are several key points that affect the development of subsequent events. One of the most important points is the robber's reaction when he learns that the victim has called the police. Calling the police will bring heavy psychological and mental pressure to the robbers. Although they have long guessed that the victim is likely to call the police, since kidnapping is a highly stressful job, most robbers will be angry and hurt the victim at this time. A few particularly serious ones will even kill the victim directly. Even if the victim is not harmed at the time, calling the police is equivalent to giving the robbers a signal that the kidnapping work has entered a more difficult stage and must be ended as soon as possible. The whole process will be tense and the robbers may make extreme actions at the slightest stimulation. For the sake of safety afterwards, many robbers will kill the victim even if they get the ransom after learning that the victim has called the police. So, once the robbers know that the police have been called, it will be a strong pressure on both parties. The struggle will escalate immediately. The robbers may be caught at any time, and the victim may face the result of being killed at any time. To put it bluntly, since the other party has pointed out the police, it is equivalent to giving both parties an ultimatum. Either you pay the money or I kill the hostage. There is no time for further hesitation. As for whether the hostage will be killed after paying the money, whether the police can catch him or not, that is a later story. However, if you want to slowly investigate and search with a large-scale police force as before, it will definitely not work. The robbers will start before they find them. It has reached the point of direct confrontation, and the atmosphere in the entire monitoring room suddenly became tense. He Baoan's expression froze, and he grabbed a piece of paper and quickly wrote a few words, and pushed it in front of Luo Jiaju. Luo Jiaju looked at the paper and stammered, "Don't get excited. I didn't call the police. It must be a misunderstanding." "Bullshit. I've seen the police searching the mountain. How dare you say you didn't call the police? Mr. Luo, no more nonsense. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, bring 40 million in cash to Ocean Park. Only one person is allowed to come. If I see the police or anyone who looks like a police, your daughter is dead." Luo Jiaju looked at Longwu for help, and then looked at He Baoan. From the order of looking at people, it can be seen that he has greater hope for Longwu. He never looked at Su Ming from beginning to end, and it can be seen from this that Su Ming is just a bystander in his heart. He Baoan nodded with a stern face, and Luo Jiaju immediately said, okay, I promise you, don't get excited, you must ensure the safety of my daughter. Let me talk to my daughter first." "Daddy, help, A terrified female voice came from the other end of the phone immediately. But then the robber's voice came back, "Mr. Luo, I know the Hong Kong police are powerful, but you have to think clearly. Even if the police rush in front of me, I can kill your daughter with one shot first." "I understand, I understand. I will definitely deliver the money on time. How can I contact you when I arrive?" "We will contact you." The robber hung up the phone immediately after saying this, and a busy tone came from the other end of the phone. Luo Jiaju held the beeping phone and looked at Longwu and He Baoan for help. He Baoan walked back and forth several times with his hands behind his back. The robber obviously had some experience. He chose Ocean Park to pay the money. There were too many people there, and the robber had a gun in his hand, which was very unfavorable for arrest and tracking. If a gunfight broke out, it would be easy to hurt innocent tourists, and that would be a new big storm. "What do you think?" He Baoan looked up and asked. "It has only been 2 hours since the police searched the mountain. Since the other party found the police, it means that they are still in Fei Mountain. Choosing Ocean Park to pay the money is deliberately diverting the police's attention," Longwu analyzed calmly. "Fei Mountain is too big. If we send police officers to search it inch by inch, there won't be enough time. Besides, the robbers are in the dark, and the police officers are in the light. Searching the mountain can easily stimulate the robbers to kill the hostages," said another police officer on the scene. An old police officer said, "According to common sense, the robbers must be divided into 2 groups, one to guard the hostages, and one to take the money. If the person who takes the money is caught, the other side will kill the hostages." Su Ming, who had been silent, suddenly stood up. All eyes looked at him. After all, this was the person brought by Longwu. Although he had been ignored, Longwu must have brought him here for a reason. He stood up at this time, maybe he really had some brilliant ideas. Finally he was taken seriously, and finally he could participate in the kidnapping case. Su Ming straightened his chest and said loudly in a confident and powerful voice, "The robber is Qian Gairan." The office was silent for several seconds, and everyone's expression suddenly became indescribably strange. "Isn't this nonsense? Anyone can tell by the accent. Even if the Hong Kong people present can't tell, they will know after the recording is identified. The point is, how much help does this information have for the kidnapping case? Does it matter where the robber is from? Can the robber let me go if I tell him I am your fellow villager? After analyzing for a long time, this is all I can come up with? It's a complete waste of everyone's time and feelings." He Baoan's mouth twitched, and he glared at Su Ming, then ignored him again, turned to Luo Jiaju and said, "Mr. Luo, the hostages should still be on Fei Mountain. We will send plainclothes police officers to monitor all the up and down passages on Fei Mountain. Tomorrow morning, we will send someone to Ocean Park to deliver money. After the robber takes the money, the police will track him and find the hostages through him. In addition, Mr. Xiang, we may not have enough manpower, I hope you can mobilize." She paused, then continued, "Well, mobilize enthusiastic citizens to help us." Longwu nodded. "The people he can mobilize are actually much more than the police department, and on the surface, they are all kinds of people who are mixed in Hong Kong society, and are not as eye-catching as the police. Chen Yongren, you will be responsible for delivering the money tomorrow morning." A young male police officer stood up straight and gave He Baoan a standard salute, "Yes, madam." "Thank you for your hard work, Sir Chen." Luo Jiaju quickly bowed deeply to Chen Yongren. "Wait a minute." At this moment, Su Ming, who had been ignored but never gave up, spoke again. Seeing that Su Ming was making trouble again, He Baoan finally got a little angry. He slammed the documents in his hand on the table and glared at Su Ming with his hands on his hips. "Wow, handsome boy, what are you going to say when you're done?" Just now, He Baoan looked like a cold and ruthless goddess detective. She was exactly like the tiger ant, without the slightest bit of femininity. But such an outburst made him look somewhat charming. The temptation of the uniform finally appeared. Su Ming muttered. "What did you say?" He Baoan asked, glaring. Long Wu was a little embarrassed, coughed, and signaled Su Ming not to conflict with the female inspector. These days have changed a long time ago. It is no longer an era when the police officers are off duty and the young and dangerous guys talk things over. If Ant Tiger gets angry, he, a former gangster, can't save Su Ming. I mean, it's not appropriate for him to send money. Su Ming pointed at Chen Yongren. What a lousy name you gave him, and he is someone who will be killed as soon as he hears it. What's inappropriate? Chen Yongren was the first to quit. He Baoan also stared at Su Ming, as if you don't tell me why today, I want you to look good. Have you ever thought about it? Not just anyone can send money. Those who want to send money must meet at least two conditions. Su Ming stood up, walked to the middle of the office, and said to the people around him calmly, first of all, 1. You have to be smart enough to avoid losing the robber or being unable to cope with emergencies. Sir Chen, you are handsome enough. Yes, but it's obvious that you're not smart. Why? Chen Yongren asked innocently with his eyes wide open. Wow, you can tell just by looking at me. If someone jumps out to accuse me, what do you think I will do? Su Ming pointed to his nose. Chen Yongren shook his head stupidly and asked, do you want to do it? Several other people present were a little curious because of Su Ming, so they stopped interrupting him and waited for him to continue speaking. Looking at your stupid look, you still don't understand. Su Ming rolled his eyes and said, you can ask whatever I say. Isn't this completely following my train of thought? Believe it or not, if you keep following other people's train of thought, any tealing people can do it. You've been tricked into paying the ransom yourself. Why? Chen Yongren looked confused. Also, where is tealing? No problem, you're just stupid. Su Ming pointed at his nose. If someone jumps out to criticize me, I don't care what he says, whether it makes sense or not, I will definitely scold him back immediately, and he is stupid. Why? Why, BAA, do you think you are a sheep? That's enough, please maintain the minimum respect for the Xiangjiang police. He Baoan twitched the corners of his mouth twice, and seemed to want to laugh but held back, and then straightened his face again. Then tell me the second reason. Okay, the robber made it clear that he doesn't want to see the police. I know that you will let him wear plain clothes, but look at his salute just now. It was just a subconscious reaction. Even if he was in plain clothes, he wouldn't look at it. He will be recognized. Even if the robber doesn't recognize him, there are so many people in Ocean Park. If someone shouts, "Sir," do you think he will immediately put down his bag and turn around to salute? Su Ming asked. Although the atmosphere was tense at this time, everyone present could not help but laugh when they thought of Chen Yongren's response just now. What Su Ming said made sense. Although the subsequent hypothesis was a bit exaggerated, it was not impossible. Chen Yongren looks like a newcomer at first glance, but even if he is replaced by a veteran, it may not work. After working in a profession for a long time, every move and look will reveal the unique characteristics of the profession. This cannot be hidden by deliberately hiding it. For example, Su Ming has some animal potential now. When he and Nangong are alone at night, his eyes light up. Luo Jiaju was the first to speak, breaking the silence and saying to He Baoan, I think Mr. Su is right. If the robbers become angry, my daughter's safety cannot be guaranteed. I hope there will be someone else after that. He nodded at Chen Yongren again. Head, Sir Chen, I don't have any personal opinion against you. I hope you can be considerate. Oh, Chen Yongren said depressedly. He Baoan looked at Su Ming with a smile but not a smile. Then, who do you want to send? When Long Wu heard this, he probably guessed about it. He raised his head in disbelief and stared at Su Ming. Sure enough, Su Ming chuckled, since I have raised such a big problem for madam, of course I will solve it. In mainland China, when there are difficulties, party members always rush to the front. As a party member, I will go. Dividing line. It turns out to be more positive energy. Well, that's it. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 328. What a bad animal trainer. Does the animal trainer have anything to do with party members? Senior Inspector He Baoan was completely confused. Where was the Special Forces master that had been promised, and where was the mainland Kagong person and alien that had been promised? At least he must be a retired soldier. After working for a long time, a bird flew in? Is this what you are capable of? Birdman. Birdman. In He Baoan's eyes, the young mainland man with a bird standing on his shoulder, not much younger than her, with an annoying smile on his face, immediately turned into a birdman. Luo Jiaju was also shocked. Everything was fine, but another bird appeared. This thing seemed to be getting weirder and weirder. Only Long Wu, despite being surprised, could more or less understand that talking about animal trainers and party members was all nonsense. Su Ming's essential job was to be the director of the zoo. He suddenly remembered that Jackie had a concert that caused a huge sensation. Various animals helped him dance, and it was hyped in the major media in Southeast Asia for more than half a month. Now that I think about it carefully, it seems that the special consultant planning that concert was none other than Su Ming. If it were on the mainland, especially in the grassland areas of the mainland, everyone would understand what Su Ming meant as soon as the sea blue appeared. But this is Xiangjiang, and the ancient technique of falconry has long been forgotten. At least in the many Xiangjiang movies that Su Ming has watched since childhood, there is no falconry scene. Use this eagle to capture the kidnappers? It seems. Luo Jiaju coughed, it seems a little too weak. It is not as effective as using a police dog. Besides, the kidnappers have guns. Catch the kidnapper. Su Ming was stunned. Luo Jiaju's idea was obviously off track. No matter how powerful Hai Dongqing was, it was still very dangerous to fight a big man with a gun head-on. Side interference support was okay. Besides, if you or your relatives or friends are in danger, it makes sense to let animals take risks to save them. But if Hai Dongqing is allowed to risk his life just to participate in the kidnapping case and satisfy his personal evil taste, He Baoan will not do it if Su Ming is willing. It's not about arresting, but letting it track the suspect. I'm not familiar with the roads in Xiangjiang, and I can't keep up with my speed, but it's flying in mid-air, so there's no problem. It only listens to me. If I don't participate, no one can direct him. In order to match Su Ming's words, Hai Dongqing actually nodded, making a coo sound in his throat that represented submission, like a pigeon. As Su Ming said this, he picked up an unknown Snickers bar from the table, peeled it off and gave it to Hai Dongqing to eat. He Baoan's eyes widened. Hey, my Snickers bar. Wow, madam, don't be so stingy. You are a pretty girl. If you eat too much of this kind of food, you will gain weight. Your police uniform will fall apart. He Baoan is a woman after all. When she heard others say she was fat, she subconsciously looked down at the police uniform she was wearing. Okay, except for the chest area which is a bit tight, other parts are fine. As Su Ming said, Hai Dongqing had already taken a bite of the Snickers bar, then turned his head in disgust and spat out the small piece he had bitten into his mouth. See, you won't even eat the bird. Eat less junk food, madam. Su Ming rolled his eyes and carelessly stuffed the remaining half of the stick into his mouth, eating vigorously. I want to try to see if this bird is as smart as you say. He Baoan obviously didn't believe it. Several other people had the same expression. Seeing is believing. Su Ming's words could not have been more exaggerated. Without seeing it with their own eyes, they would find it hard to believe that this bird could really be tracked. Among this large group of people, there are bigwigs, rich men, and elites in the Hong Kong police community. If they were deceived by a bird, it would become a big joke in the future. Well, no problem. Handsome guy, I'll talk about you. Su Ming raised his fingers at Chen Yongren, who had been dazed beside him. What are you doing? Chen Yongren came over reluctantly. You get out of the building now, ride a police motorcycle, and run wherever you want. In 2 minutes, it will find you. Of course, you have to be on the street. If you hide in a house, there is nothing anyone can do. Chen Yongren looked at He Baoan asking for instructions. He Baoan hesitated for a moment, nodded, and said, drive faster. At first, everyone ignored Su Ming, but He Baoan took full control of the situation. Now he gradually became Su Ming's. Ming took control of the situation, and the competitive He Baoan was somewhat unconvinced. He hoped that Chen Yongren could earn some face and come back, otherwise he would become a professional policeman in Hong Kong, worse than a bird from the mainland. He Baoan secretly glanced at Su Ming and thought angrily, well, a bird, plus a birdman. Yes madam. Chen Yongren gave a standard salute, glared at Su Ming unconvinced, turned and walked out of the office, and the sound of him stomping downstairs could be heard outside. I'll just say he's not good enough. He deliberately made such a loud noise when he went downstairs. Be careful of stepping on the floor, Su Ming said with disdain. Young man, it's useless to say sarcastic words, prepare your birds, He Baoan said with a snort. Su Ming almost burst out. How did this woman speak? What does it mean to have my bird ready? Ready my bird for what? I looked down and saw that the zipper of my pants was still open. There was the sound of a motorcycle starting downstairs, and a large group of people in the office immediately rushed to the window, opened a row of windows, and stretched their heads to look down. I saw Chen Yongren had already got on the motorcycle, turned around and stretched out 2 fingers, and saluted the upstairs in a very chic way, then turned the throttle and rode away on the motorcycle. I don't know if he was deliberately provoking or not paying attention. The police lights on the back of the motorcycle were still on, as if he didn't take the Saker Falcon seriously at all. Looking down from the 5th floor, outside the police station building, the streets of the new territories were brightly lit, with vehicles and people everywhere. After Chen Yongren left the police station on his motorcycle, he quickly merged into the crowd. The tail lights of the motorcycle were also countless. The lights of various lights merged into one, and it was difficult to distinguish one from another. At this time, it was almost like looking for a needle in a haystack to find Chen Yongren. Let your bird go out, it's really too late to see the tail lights of the car, He Baoan reminded on the side. It's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes. Su Ming looked at his watch. 1.5 minutes had passed, and there were still 30 seconds. There are many traffic lights on the streets of Hong Kong, so there is no need to worry about Chen Yongren running too far. Long Wu was a little worried and reminded him, there is no difference between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes. When we are in action, we will not let the robbers run for 2 minutes first. Su Ming nodded, but still did not release the hawk. Instead, he continued to look at the watch, watching the second hand move forward one by one. This birdman is very trustworthy. He Baoan nodded secretly, and his opinion of Su Ming changed unconsciously. When the second hand finished the last grid, Su Ming's shoulders shrugged slightly. The Saker Falcon's claw slightly borrowed from Su Ming's shoulders, and its wings spread out like a blade, making a long cry, turning into a sharp sword and rushing into the sky like lightning. In the blink of an eye, only a small black dot was left. Wow, so handsome, the 2 younger civilian female police officers in the office couldn't help but exclaimed. He Baoan turned back and glared at them, then turned his head to look at Su Ming, squinting his eyes, and went to the sky to look for the Saker Falcon. At this time, there was no trace of the Saker Falcon. The Saker Falcon flew into the sky, and Chen Yongren had already disappeared into the crowd on his motorcycle. The office became quiet again, as if nothing had happened. But everyone was nervous, even He Baoan, looking forward to what would happen next. Madame Su Ming suddenly spoke, breaking the silence. "Have you found it?" He Baoan blurted out, and everyone looked at Su Ming in unison, their eyes full of expectation. "Ahem, this, I'm a little thirsty, can I have a cup of coffee?" Su Ming laughed dryly. He Baoan rolled his eyes, then snapped his fingers at a petite female police officer. "Abby, make Mr. Su a cup of coffee, and order supper for everyone, same as usual, milk tea and egg tarts." "Wow, eating like this will really make you fat," Su Ming shrugged and kindly reminded him, then took the coffee from the female police officer named Abby, nodded and smiled, "Thank you." "You're welcome." Abby didn't leave immediately, but was full of curiosity and asked in a low voice, "Mr. Su, is your bird really that amazing?" Su Ming almost spit out a mouthful of coffee, and finally held it back, and said to Abby very seriously, "Abby, in mainland China, girls won't ask boys about birds so directly. Mine is called Saker Falcon." "Oh, sorry." Abby's round face blushed slightly, "Then you're Saker Falcon. Anyway, it's that big bird, can it really find Chen Yongren?" "It should be possible." Su Ming nodded. In fact, in his soul attaching ability, he had already discovered Chen Yongren's traces. This guy looked stupid, but he was actually quite cunning. He actually passed through the crowd and drove towards Tuen Mun Road. There were few traffic lights and people and cars on Tuen Mun Road. He could drive very fast on a motorcycle and drive very far in a blink of an eye. However, this was not a problem for the flying Heidongking. The more he drove to a place with fewer people, the easier it would be to be discovered. The reason why Su Ming wanted coffee was to think about how to tell these people the location of Chen Yongren. He couldn't say that Heidongking told him the location thousands of miles away. "Madam, call Chen Yongren and tell him that he can stop anywhere and Heidongking will find him," Su Ming suddenly said. "Okay." He Baoan immediately made a call and said something to Chen Yongren on the other end of the phone in Cantonese. Not long after, the phone rang. He Baoan turned on the radio, and Chen Yongren's exaggerated voice came from the other end of the phone. "Wow, madam, I just stopped and the bird appeared. It seems to have been following me all the time." The office was in an uproar, and everyone was surprised. Luo Jiaju let out a long sigh and sat down on the sofa as if relieved. The little policewoman Abby waved her little fist and said excitedly, "Su Sheng, your bird is really amazing." "Su Ming. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 329. It stands to reason that Hai Dongqing kept up with Chen Yongren and found his position accurately, so the result of this game was already obvious. "Madam, my current position is..." Chen Yongren was about to report. He Baoan interrupted Chen Yongren, "Don't tell me your location yet." He turned around and asked Su Ming with a half smile, "Su Sheng, your bird can't even report his location." Everyone present was stunned, as if what He Baoan said did make sense. Hai Dongqing is not a human being, and even if he is a human being, he does not know how to transmit sounds across thousands of miles. Although being able to catch up with Chen Yongren is beyond everyone's expectations, it is still understandable after all, just like a hound can track a truth. Although domesticated falcons are rare in Xiangjiang, it does not mean that the people of Xiangjiang do not understand this principle. But if Hai Dongqing could tell Su Ming the exact location of Chen Yongren from several kilometers away, that would be completely beyond the comprehension of ordinary people, and it is simply a myth. Obviously impossible. After saying that, the cold-faced female inspector finally showed the proud expression of a little girl who had stolen candy. "Su Sheng, Since you are tracking the kidnapper, your bird must tell us the location of the kidnapper. Longwu shook his head on the side and smiled without saying a word. In fact, as long as you can keep up with the other party, there are many ways to fly back to notify humans and lead them to find the kidnapper's hiding place. Longwu had rich experience, and he could tell that the reason why this young and energetic female inspector said this was just to save a little face in the end, so she deliberately stated this impossible condition to go make things difficult for Su Ming. Luo Jiaju also saw this, but he didn't think too much about it, because he was so angry that he wanted to curse. How long had it been since his daughter's life and death were uncertain, and yet these two young men and women were fighting over each other here. But he didn't want to offend these two key figures, so he could only sit on the sofa angrily. It's better to call it a draw. Longwu smoothed things over. I don't care. He Baoan clasped his hands on his chest, pulled out the tight police uniform, squeezed out two towering hills, and looked at Su Ming with a smile. Su Ming put down the mobile phone in his hand and spoke out an address in a leisurely manner: the woods on the right 2 kilometers away from Tunmun Highway. Ah, he Baoan's smile froze, thinking that Su Ming just mentioned the address casually, and quickly called Chen Yongren to verify his location. Madam, yes, I am, 2 kilometers away from Tunmun Highway, in the woods. Yes, right in the woods. Chen Yongren's voice was intermittent, as if the signal was not very good. Everyone in the entire office was stunned. If they were shocked to find Chen Yongren just now they were as frightened as if they had seen a ghost. How is that possible? He Baoan suddenly stood up and pressed her hands on the table. The movement was so big that her chest was beating wildly, just like the fluctuations in her heart at this time. The little policewoman Abby asked timidly, Sushan, what's going on, can you tell us? No, you can see for yourself. Su Ming handed the phone to Abby. Abby took it and only glanced at it, then took the phone away with a gasp. Her face turned red, and then she couldn't help but laugh. What's going on? He Baoan glared at Abby. Madam, you can see for yourself. Abby held back her laughter and handed over the phone. When he Baoan took it and took a look, his nose was almost crooked with anger. A video was opened on the phone. The video seemed to be taken while suspended in mid-air. Chen Yongren was standing under the tree twisting and turning with his back to the video camera. A stream of turbid liquid flowed out from his feet. He looked like he was peeing. Not far away, there is a road sign. The font on it is not very clear, but you can still make out the words Tunmun Highway, 2. Madam, can you be more professional? It's the 21st century now. Don't you even know about cameras? Su Ming picked up the coffee and took a sip. He smiled at the people in the office and said, I'm in Hedonking's. There is a miniature high-definition camera strapped to my leg. Of course I can clearly see every move there. After Hedonking Phi I came back, I checked and found that it actually had a small camera on its leg. During this time, Su Ming spent time with Nangong Niwai whenever he had something to do. Sometimes Hai Dongqing was too far away, and with his current level of mental strength, he couldn't stay close to her. Moreover, once he used soul possession to open up Hedonking's vision, Hedonking flew too high and too fast. The feeling of being blown by the cold wind from high altitude was so sour that it made him cry. So he simply used I bought a camera and tied it to Hedonking's feet, and connected it to my mobile phone using wireless network. Everyone, I beg you, please make a plan quickly. Luo Jiaju finally couldn't help but speak, and said with a grimace, it's already early in the morning. Okay, I'll report to my superiors first. Letting Su Ming take part in the operation, He Baoan really couldn't make the decision on such a big matter. He went to the next room and called her immediate boss, a chief inspector, to explain the interests and risks, and also told what she had just seen. Report truthfully and hope that the superiors will investigate Su Ming's details. Not long after, He Baoan came back and restored his previous image of a capable policewoman. It has been approved by the superiors. I will lead this operation, and Su Ming, the director of Yangchuan Zoo, will participate in this operation. Now, let's make a specific plan. The kidnappers, the police, and the gangsters under Longwu were busy in the night. A platoon of flying tigers had received orders and began to gear up at 5 in the morning, ready to launch a strong attack at any time. At least half of the uniformed patrolmen on leave in the new territories were urgently recalled. Some changed into plain clothes, and some pretended to patrol and appeared on the roads around Fei Mountain and Ocean Park. Groups of people who looked no different from ordinary citizens came to the foot of Fei Mountain and lit bonfires. They looked like tourists who came to the campsite, but occasionally in their eye contact, they revealed a trace of the cruelty and ferocity of the gangsters. Wow, Huo Dongjun, can you not use the machete that has been used to cut people to cut beef offal? It's disgusting, a yellow-haired boy complained dissatisfiedly beside the bonfire. Huo Dongjun, the newly promoted gangster who was preparing barbecue ingredients, waved the machete in his hand at him and said angrily, "If you think it's disgusting, don't eat it." In the police building, Su Ming asked Longwu again, "Do you really not want to join the party?" "Boss, this is not a society, it is simply a model of sincere cooperation between good citizens and the police." Longwu stood at the window, handed over a cigar, and said deeply, "If you can make money in peace, who would be willing to go against the government? How much money can you make by fighting and killing? Based on your awareness, I must pull you into the party," Su Ming said confidently. Longwu. In the depths of Fei Mountain, in a dark cave, the sound of someone talking came faintly. These Hong Kong tycoons are so humming rich, more than 40 million, they agreed without even thinking. "So, we are doing justice for the heavens. Brother, how about we go deeper? It's so uncomfortable in this wilderness, let's do something with that woman? Damn, these rich ladies smell so good." "Bullshit, kidnapping is kidnapping, don't talk nonsense. Brother, the person is kidnapped, it's nothing to do it. You know shit, this is called professionalism, we are doing it kidnapper, if you get her, wouldn't that be rape? Isn't this a serial crime? Haven't you heard on TV that only legal means can you have a chance?" Someone in the cave laughed, "Old bear, don't try Lan Xiang's tricks on you. Xiao Mao, you should be patient. When you have money, go back and visit all the beauty salons in the city. That woman is not simple. She is always calm and doesn't cry or make a fuss. Let's not provoke her to avoid unnecessary trouble. Brother, the police have already known about it. You must be careful when you go to withdraw money tomorrow. Leave a lot of space everywhere. Be careful, don't let anyone follow you. If you don't come back before 10:30, we will treat you as if you are in trouble. Then we will leave it to fate. We can't save you. Killing this woman is to help you get revenge. Then we will temporarily disband. Brother? If we kill this woman, what will happen to the money? Will our work be in vain? We have invested tens of thousands of dollars. You are stupid, there are so many rich people in Hong Kong, even if we fail this time, as long as we have the people and the guns, we can do something bigger next time. But listen to me, if you get the money, we will let you go, if you don't get the money, we will definitely to kill someone, this is called credibility. If we build a good reputation, the next time we kidnap someone, the victim will be honest and pay the money at ease, this is called service. What Lao Xiang said makes sense, we have to be professional in our business. Brother, I am excited to hear you say that, it's like we are doing a great cause. The next morning, before the Hong Kong Ocean Park opened for business, a group of plainclothes police and gang members pretending to be ordinary tourists had already arrived at the ocean park to control and set up points. The ocean park faces the sea on 3 sides, and its geographical location is relatively easy to control, but its area is too large. It is the largest ocean park in Asia. Moreover, the park buildings are distributed in two places, one is on Nanlang Mountain, and the other is in the Wangchukang Valley under the mountain. The two are connected by an aerial cable car. There are 8 large areas in the park, including Ocean World, Green Garden, Bird Paradise, Water Park, Children's Kingdom, etc. The daily flow of people is hundreds of thousands, especially during the May Day holiday. When the door is open to receive guests, it will definitely be crowded. No matter how many police forces there are, they cannot ensure that every corner is completely controlled. Hello, 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 I am Suming, this is a test, please reply if you hear it. Over, Suming squatted on the grass and said curiously to the miniature intercom hidden in his collar. Mr. Su, you have been tested for the 8th time, and I am sitting on a bench 20 meters away from you. He Baoan's helpless voice came from the headset. Please, can you be more serious? Madam, don't be so nervous, relax. Suming said while opening his mobile phone, hanging it on his waist, and pointing the mobile phone camera to the front. Wang Hao's fat face is revealed on the phone. Looking at the background, it seems to be a live broadcast room. Dividing line. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 330. Suming thought of a crooked trick at first. Since Yangchuan City has a live broadcast platform, he might as well broadcast the rescue operation online, which will definitely have a sensational effect. But then he changed his mind and thought that if the rescue was successful, then there would be no problem with the live broadcast. But what if it failed? In the end, the kidnappers and the police had a gunfight, the kidnappers escaped, the hostages were killed, and the screen was full of blood and flesh flying, then the live broadcast would be a big problem. Isn't this a blatant discredit to the Hong Kong police? Maybe someone will sue him for violating human rights and portrait rights. So he thought of a compromise, recording the broadcast, recording it first, and seeing the results. If the result is satisfactory, of course, all parties will not object to this publicity opportunity. Otherwise, pull it. Okay, very clear, very clear. Lao Su, if it is live broadcast, I estimate that hundreds of thousands of people will rush into the live broadcast room. Wang Hao still felt a little regretful. Recording can also create a sensational effect. We have seen hostage rescue in movies, but who has seen it in real life? Don't worry. Okay, I won't say any more. Can you see the video from Heidongking clearly? Very clear. Okay. Old Su, be careful, don't splash blood all over the camera. Time passed little by little. After the opening of the ocean park, tourists continued to pour in like a tide. Soon, the park was overcrowded. Suming couldn't even see He Baoan, who was more than 20 meters away. Just after 9:30, Luo Jiaji's phone, which Suming was carrying, suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Attention, all units, attention, the kidnapper is calling. Suming answered the phone after He Baoan notified everyone through the intercom. A voice with a mainland accent came from the other side. Hello, Mr. Luo, did you bring the money? I brought the money, but I am not Mr. Luo. Hearing that there was a different person on the phone, and it was standard mainland Mandarin, the kidnapper on the other side was obviously alert and asked in a low voice, who are you? Where is Luo Jiaju? Mr. Luo certainly can't show up himself. What if you kidnap him? I am Mr. Luo's friend. I brought the money. Where are you and how can I give it to you? Suming asked. The person on the other end hesitated for a few seconds and said, you don't need to care where I am. Tell me what clothes you are wearing and your physical characteristics. Suming described his dress in detail, and the kidnapper said, now, you carry the money bag and walk to the intersection between the roller coaster and the aquarium. There is a big shark balloon at the intersection. When you get there, stop there. After that, he hung up the phone directly. Su Ming could only follow his words and walk towards the intersection half a mile away in the crowd. The first group follows and ensure Mr. Su's safety, He Baoan's voice came from the intercom. Su Ming hurriedly said, stand farther away. The kidnappers must be around. Don't let them find you. We are professionals, of course we understand. Just do your job. He Baoan was in a highly nervous state and her tone was a little impatient. But after she finished speaking, she also found that her attitude seemed a bit bad. After all, Su Ming came to help at risk, so her tone softened a little and added unnaturally, be careful. Following the crowd to the intersection with the great shark, Su Ming was like an ordinary tourist, carrying a big bag, standing under the great shark balloon, and taking a selfie with his mobile phone. A few minutes later, the phone rang again. Very good, I see you. Brother, can you hurry up? It's more than 40 million, almost 50 million. It's not a check, it's cash. I'm tired of carrying it. Before the other party finished speaking, Su Ming started to talk nonsense. If you don't believe me, I'll give it to you later. Try it yourself. Carrying so much money for several kilometers. It's dozens of kilograms. It's almost life-threatening. Come and get it quickly. Shut up, the kidnapper on the other end of the phone was probably confused. It was the first time he encountered such a thing. He actually complained that the money was too heavy and couldn't wait to hand it over. These are all valuable experiences. The kidnapper nodded secretly. Fortunately, he had this experience. The next time he kidnapped someone, if he asked the other party for 100 million, the other party might not be able to carry it alone. Brother, where are you, exactly? Su Ming said impatiently. Do you think I'm an idiot? The kidnapper sneered and said, now, take the sightseeing cable car. Ah, Su Ming was stunned. Why take the sightseeing cable car? However, when Su Ming looked towards the sightseeing cable car, he immediately understood the kidnapper's intention. The ocean park is divided into two parts, one part is on the Nanlang Mountain, and the other part is in the Wangchukang Valley at the foot of the mountain. They are more than 1 kilometer apart and connected by an aerial cable car. In this 1 kilometer, except for a few small parks on the edge of the two large parks, most of the area is in the wilderness. The police's control forces are all arranged in the park. There is no one in the wilderness under the cable car. The kidnapper is also calculated to the end. When the cable car drives to a random location, he will let him drop the money off the cable car, and he can take the money and leave. Even if the police force is arranged now, it is useless. If someone suddenly appears in the wilderness after the kidnapper makes a phone call, even a fool will know that it is the police, and the kidnapper will never show up again. All in all, this is an excellent plan. The kidnappers can easily take the money and leave without the risk of being exposed or arrested. However, he never expected that no one would be able to keep an eye on him, but there was still a bird in the sky. Su Sheng, do as he said, your bird, He Donking can monitor from mid-air, He Baoan urged through the intercom. In addition, we will try to set up points at both ends of the cable car. In less than a minute, the kidnapper called again and urged, go right away, we'll board the cable car on the next train. After saying that, he hung up the phone again. Su Ming had just walked to the entrance of the cable car and bought a ticket when a woman with sunshade eyes and a pair of short denim hot pants suddenly appeared behind her. She exposed her two slender legs and looked like a tourist. Stylish female tourist. The female tourist also bought a ticket and followed Su Ming's cable car. Wow, madam, why are you here? When queuing to get on the bus, Su Ming tilted his head slightly, pretending to look at the scenery, and said to He Baoan, who was make-up as a tourist behind him. He Baoan looked forward and whispered, the superiors have issued strict orders to protect your safety. The cable car has been out of our control. If I don't follow you, how can I rest assured? It's not that exaggerated, isn't it? I'm not a fool. I'm a grown man and need you to protect me, Su Ming said. You think I'm trying to protect you? Stop talking, or you'll be discovered, He Baoan said, pretending that there were too many people in line, and deliberately bumped Su Ming with his knee from behind. Su Ming turned around and glared at her, then said with his lips, "Your young master takes revenge." He Baoan took off his eyes, looked innocent, and said sweetly, "Sir, I'm really sorry, there are too many people." Su Ming. Soon they boarded the cable car. Su Ming took a blue cable car alone with dolphins painted on the outside, while He Baoan boarded the one at the back. The two cable cars went one behind the other and slowly drove up the hillside. Not long after the cable car left the shore, the phone rang. "I saw you, don't hang up the phone and follow my instructions." Su Ming looked down. As the cable car climbed up, the distance to the ground below became higher and higher. He suddenly realized a very serious problem. "Brother, there is something I must tell you." The kidnapper said impatiently, "What nonsense, it's not your turn to make the decision now." "No, it's really serious." Su Ming looked down and asked, "Have you ever thought about it? This bag contains tens of millions. If you throw it from such a height, the bag will break. The wind in the mountains is so strong. When all the money is blown away, how will you get it?" No one, including He Baoan, expected Su Ming to say such a thing. Su Ming didn't expect it beforehand. He had watched so many Xiangjiang movies. The kidnappers had various reasons for not getting the money in the end, but he had never lost the money because the bag containing the money was broken. The kidnapper was obviously in a daze and didn't speak for a while. "This is life, brother, there will always be accidents that we don't expect." Su Ming also comforted the kidnappers and asked tentatively, "How about we pay in another way?" The kidnapper was stunned for 7 or 8 seconds. This was the first time that he encountered the victim taking the initiative to consider the problem from the kidnapper's point of view. Finally, he smiled and said, "Brother, you are not a bad person. That's right, it's best if you don't hurt the hostages." Before Su Ming could finish speaking, the kidnapper interrupted him again and his tone became stern, "But it's none of your business, just listen to me. Well, anyway, I reminded you that if the bag is broken, you can't blame me for being insincere, and you can't hurt the hostages because of it." Su Ming warned worriedly. "Why do you talk so much nonsense? Do as I say, or I will kill you too," the kidnapper screamed so hard that Su Ming's head hurt. The cable cars are two-way. There are 2 rows of cable cars from top to bottom and from bottom to top. They are not far apart. If an adult is brave enough, he can even jump from one cable car to the other. As he was talking, he saw a man wearing black sunglasses and covering half of his face with a large mask sitting on a cable car with Pikachu printed on it. The man held the phone in one hand and waved to Su Ming with the other, "Throw the money over here, it's this car with the yellow mouse on it." The emotional kidnapper brothers don't know Pikachu. He Baoan, who was sitting on the cable car behind, was overjoyed. The cable car opposite leads to the park below. As long as the man takes the money and gets off the cable car exit, professional paparazzi can be arranged to follow him. At the same time, Hai Dongqing in the sky will continue to monitor him. With a two-pronged approach, he will definitely escape. Out of sight of the police. Just follow him and you'll find the hostages. Take it. Su Ming held up the money and threw it directly towards it. The big bag flew in the air, drew an arc, and fell towards the cable car on the opposite side. The kidnapper brother reached out to pick it up and grabbed the strap of the bag. Then, something no one expected happened. Or we can say that although film art comes from life, it is higher than life. The cash in the bag was already extremely heavy, and with the inertia of Su Ming's throw, after the kidnapper grabbed the bag, before he could laugh, his expression suddenly changed, and his body seemed to be slowing down. Yes, lean to the side of the cable car. Immediately afterwards, the whole person disappeared in a whoosh. There was a muffled sound below. It turned out that the kidnapper was pulled by this huge force and fell from the cable car. Fall down! Fall down! Su Ming blinked his eyes, and it took him a long time to react. He looked heavy-hearted. Hey, this is the consequence of not wearing a seat belt.